Okay, YouTubers, this is my second video. I'm going to show you a little bit about this instrument. The last video I played a toggle harpa. Now I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Bowed lyre is the broad term for loosely the same instrument played in Finland, Sweden, Estonia, even the British Isles had one. It's basically a lyre, except it only has a few strings, and you touch your fingers to the strings for the notation. It's played with a bow. My bridge is curved. A lot of them, see if I can show you that, a lot of them have a flat bridge because you're playing all strings at once. The other thing that's more typical of a bowed lyre is from about here down is the sound body, so you only have about this much room to reach up in here and play. This is not a bass toggle harpa, although it's larger than the standard toggle harpa. It gives me a chance to play more notes. So I can go all the way up to an octave. I need some rosin. I'm not really prepared to play right now, but I can play an entire octave on each string here, which is a nice benefit. I wanted to be able to improvise, and I don't really have an affinity for the 4 or 5 note simple dance melodies. I like tetrachords, but I also like some of the modal music from different parts of the world, like Eastern Europe and Central Asia, Turkey, places like that, Siberia. So I wanted to be able to improvise. I wanted to be able to play some other kinds of music. So I don't really, we don't actually know what the music sounded like for these instruments. We have some masters. There's a Yohiko master, a few, I believe, which is the Finnish version. And they, I believe, were taught by someone, although I should probably not talk about that too much because I'm not really an expert in the field. I basically just built this thing from watching some videos. So this, I did my best to build it out of all natural materials. I've got a piece of nylon cord here on the tailpiece, and I have one screw in here for a post because I had trouble holding it in place. It's a little easier to hold with the post on it, even though it's not a traditional design. It's poplar. It's 2 pieces of a board and batten cabin that I remodeled. I basically routed each one out fully, all the way through, and then I glued the 2 pieces together. Obviously, one is bigger than the other, so I've got a step for a sound body, and then I've got the arms of the lyre portion that holds these tuning pegs. These tuning pegs are persimmon, which is a native fruit here in the hood of Indiana, kind of all over North America and different places up and down the Midwest and stuff. There are persimmons in China too, but anyway, I used persimmon because it's the hardest native wood in North America, as far as I know. It's in the ebony family. Super hard. It's not very pretty. I wouldn't do a large piece with it. It just doesn't come out real pretty unless it's dyed, or maybe specific pieces are pretty, but it's wicked hard. The back is oak. Oak is not a very good tone wood, but it is very durable. The backs of lots of guitars are made of oak, other instruments too. The top is a couple pieces of cedar that I glued together. They're not very aesthetically book matched, but I wasn't really going for beauty when I built this. I was going for sound and some level of integrity around the building process more than I was going for aesthetics. This is a piece of black walnut that came from a tree in my yard. This bridge, as you can see it, is also a piece of persimmon. It's very hard. I tried to use a piece of hardwood for this. I realized later that it's not necessary. This was the funnest part of the building process. That's intended to be the traditional Dianic priestess kind of moon phases symbol, as you can see. The curls are just an extra. I put a coat of shellac on it. Shellac is very, very hard, so it was a finish that does a minimal compromising of the sound. In the traditional building of music instruments in different parts of the world, shellac was obtainable. Obviously not an epoxy or a petroleum product, and it's renewable, and it dries very hard, so it doesn't compromise the sound, and in some cases people believe it enhances the sound. A lot of instruments in the old world, in different parts of the world, were left raw wood. Some of the finest instruments made nowadays in the Mediterranean and such are still raw wood because it's considered sacrilege or degradation to put a coating on an instrument. It compromises the sound quite a bit. I've actually found this to be true with other music instruments that are just look like they've been dipped in a clear coat of plastic. So it's durable, it lasts long, but it doesn't sound that good. So I would have liked to just not have this here at all, but I felt like I needed to have something, so I put something on it. I'm kind of a dirty person, and I wanted to be able to do stuff with it, take it places, not have to wash my hands every single time I play. My greasy fingers will stain a piece of raw wood just like anyone else's. So that's that. These are twisted horsehair strings. They're black horsehair, black stallion horsehair from Mongolia. This is one of the things I could not find in my home state of Indiana. I had to have it shipped in. It's not that hard to find. They sell it as bow hair for double bass bows, I think. And this is about the maximum string length that I could possibly get out of the bow hair that I bought. It gets more difficult if I go longer, although I did find some longer string. Anyway, I put microtuners on it because the fine tuning, I can't do fine tuning with these pegs. It doesn't work so well. If you build an instrument this size or smaller, I recommend microtuners, especially with the horsehair strings, because they stretch at the breath of the wind. They change tune when the wind blows. They change tune when I go outside or come inside from outside. It's just constantly changing. The weather constantly changes the sound of the instrument. I gave myself a lot of room to play here so I could play some more complicated stuff or just more nuanced music that is Turkish makams, Greek modal music, makams from Central Asia, some kind of microtonal music, stuff like that. There's different things you can do. I actually really like bagpipe music from the Mediterranean. The Turks have an incredible bagpipe tradition that's just beautiful. So anyway, this kind of instrument suits those old droney traditions because we're not playing chords, we're playing melodies. I also prefer the what's it called? Just intonation rather than equal temperament. Equal temperament is what a piano is. I find piano to be kind of edgy, hard-edged. Natural harmonics are closer to just intonation, and the melodies, when you're playing melodies, just intonation is a really great thing to develop an ear for. It's subtle, but it is different. There are some differences. So let me think about this for a minute, if there's other things I could say. Here's the bow. The bow is also made of black horsehair. Once you build one of these things, you know, based on your own nature and your own constitution, kind of what kind of weight you might want for your bow and how it's displaced. I built this one this way because my hands are big and I wanted to be able to play an octave and have room. So now when I play the octave, literally, even with my fingers this close together, it's almost still too small. If I added another inch to my string length, I could space my fingers just a little more and play a little more freely. But I really like this. It sounds great. I have to rosin a lot. Keep in mind that when you play horsehair on horsehair, tons and tons and tons of rosin. Which brings me to the next thing here, which is this, which is, there it is. That is pine resin. It's mostly been collected from Colorado. Some of it I collected in the summer, some of it I collected in the winter. I did not mix them together. I have two different batches. You'll have to, you would, in theory, have to find out which rosin works for you, because based on your instrument and the weather in your hood, it will inform you on what's necessary for your strings to really make a good sound. I've seen a lot of people not fully understand string tension and rosin, so some of these instruments sound real scratchy and real, what's the word? They're just weak. It's good to have a lot of tension. These strings do not stretch. The more you twist them, when you put them on, the more they will stretch, but hair doesn't really stretch that much. Only when it's twisted it'll have a slight kind of a spring to it. That's the only way that they can stretch. And I love the way it sounds. I prefer the black over the white. The white hair is thinner, the black hair is thicker. This black stallion hair grows thick because of the hormones in the stallion, but also in the cold weather of Siberia, the hair also grows thicker, which is why it's preferred. Trying to think if I forgot anything yet. I built a case for it. See if I can do a little view of the case here. This thing is a little bit fragile, so I wanted to be able to take it places. So, I'll show you what I did. On the outside, it's a box. Let me just turn it around. There's a handle, some latches on the inside. I slide my bow right in the top in here. I put the instrument in like this. It doesn't move left to right, hardly at all. Now, when I close the top, it'll fall out. However, there's one more little thing here, if I can find it. It's going to take me a second to find it. Forgive me. There it is. So, what I did is I just... Wow. Yeah. So, then I put this little piece of wood in here, and then when the top closes, it stays in place. It doesn't move around. I can put some things over here. Like I said, the bow slides into the top here behind this, hold it in place. Now I can take this thing all over, take it places, place things. So that's it. I just wanted to show you guys what was up. I've got a lot of different projects going, but this one really inspired me to make some YouTube videos, so I decided I would give it a shot. I don't have any experience doing this. So this is my first time. I'm probably going to make some videos on some other instruments, probably some large drums made from hollow logs, some reishi mushroom tinctures, a larger bowed lyre than this, 4 strings. Really, it's actually really big. I'm not done yet, but it's gonna be cool. So that's all, man. I hope you guys liked it. Feel free to ask me any questions about the process. Oh, I used hide glue to glue this whole thing together. After trying Titebond and wood glue and things like that, it's real functional for important joints and things like that, but what I wanted to do was really keep integrity with the quality of the sound, like I said before. Hide glue is not the most weather-worthy, but it does dry harder than any other glue that I know of. And some people believe it'll actually enhance the sound of your instrument to have that glue vibrating in the joints inside your instrument. I don't know if I mentioned, this also does have a bass bar and a treble post inside, which makes a huge difference in the sound quality of your instrument. What that does is it transfers the sound from the soundboard to the back and kind of turns this whole instrument into a resonator instead of just the bridge to the top. And it really gives a good voice to the instrument. I also ordered the tuning pegs online myself. Those were the 2 things I think that I got that were not homegrown. That would be the tuning pegs and the bridge. And that 1 screw in the end to hold this post in, so I find that I can actually hold it a little better with the post. I've seen people not have a post and they kind of hold it tight, which is cool, but I find the post to actually allow me some more distance for my own posture's sake. I think that's it. I covered rosin a little bit. Let me show you some of these. This is what I did. I usually pour it after I cook that rosin down. I pour it into a little tea light foil. It's got to be dissolved, then it's got to be filtered to get all the crud out, and then it's got to be cooked hot enough to cook all of the distillates out, but not so hot that it breaks down the resin acids. If it gets too hot, it'll burn, and your rosin will become too crumbly and too soft to work with. So you want to know your instrument in relationship to your environment well enough to know what kind of rosin you need. If I built another one of these, really what I do is I have 2 different kinds of rosin going. I have a harder rosin for the hot weather, and then I have a softer rosin for the cold weather. They may also relate to humidity, but gonna find that out this summer. So I'm not really sure yet what I'm gonna learn about that. But I've got 2 or 3 different rosins in my case based on the weather and the situation. All winter I've used this darker, softer rosin that was collected from spruce trees in Crestone, Colorado a couple years ago on New Year's. It was a pretty magical time. It was 2 feet of snow on the ground, freezing cold. So it's exciting to build your own instrument. I like making my own things. I believe that making things by hand gives them power. And in the old world, shamans from Siberia and other places, other Central Asian regions, and even in North America, people would make their own instruments. And the spirits of the materials they used, whether it was the animals or their own spirit that they put into it, was part of the power that it had. And sometimes they would use these instruments to either exorcise spirits out of a space or of a person, or they would use it to call and bring in certain energies into a space. So I like researching different kinds of music that serves different purposes based on the time and the place and the need. And then I like to learn how to play those musics with this instrument or other instruments too. So anyway, I've got some other projects I hope I can share with you guys sometime soon. I'm just getting started doing this. I have no idea what I'm doing, so feel free to ask questions about the process, about how I did it, or feel free to ask me anything. And thanks for watching.